Hey, it's Sam, and I'm talking today about September 2023. You see, this is the chart, September 1st, 2023. We're going to go through the month each day, and we're going to highlight some important things, including Jupiter retrograde, Venus turns direct after being retrograde, still spends the month in Cancer. Mercury is retrograde now, but he turns direct in Leo. We have a few other shifts that happen, so check this out. So go to rahuketu.net to attend the Rahu in Pisces, Ketu in Virgo free web class. We're going to have this shift of Rahu going through Pisces and Ketu through Virgo. It'll be from November 29th, 2023 until the end of May of 2025. And I'm going to talk about what it means for your sign, the house axis from your chart, for the world based on past transits. So are you ready for that? What's going to happen? And again, as you can see here, I analyzed the nodes, what they are, Rahu in Pisces, Ketu in Virgo. You see we have big eclipses coming up with this nodal axis, October 14th, 2023, and then also April 8th next year, and even further into 2025. So again, this is a great opportunity for you to really learn what this transit means. So go ahead and register rahuketu.net. So as you see, we start the month with Jupiter up here in Aries. Saturn is retrograde, Mercury's retrograde as well, and so is Venus. And by the time we get a couple days into the month, by September 4th, Jupiter is also retrograde, but by then Venus has turned direct. So you can see here, Venus has been retrograde since the middle of July, and now, early September, she's going to turn direct, okay? So, but shortly thereafter, Jupiter turns retrograde, which will be for close to 4 months. So now we have Saturn retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, and Mercury retrograde as well. So this Jupiter turning retrograde in particular, because that's going to be a new shift, shows a time to be reflecting on what inspires us, recalibrating our inspirations. This can be in teachings, teachers, and even things like, political leaders and, causes that we agree with and that we believe in, things that give us hope. Again, we've tied a lot of our spirituality up even in things now, like politics and other kinds of things. These are all things that sort of give our life a sense of meaning and purpose. It's time to really reflect and introspect about those things, about, first of all, whether those things that inspire us are really inspiring, whether they're worthy of our devotion, and whatever is worthy or whatever we're devoted to really reflect on it and see if we're honoring those great teachings and teachers by putting them into practice, by actually living in alliance and in accordance with the highest ideals. And again, we have a certain moral compass in life, which is shown by Jupiter, this sense of, we all think we're a good person. I'm doing the good thing, the right thing. This is all very much Jupiter energy. So are we actually doing it, though? Are you actually walking the talk, especially in alignment with what you believe to be inspiring and what a good person would do? So when Jupiter's retrograde, it's a time to reflect on that, recalibrate, and see how much we're truly inspired by the things we believe and how much we're putting them into practice. Now he's in Aries, which shows big changes and shifts in these things, which we've all been experiencing since earlier this year. But that's another matter. But so the retrograde part is where now is a time to reflect on how much the things we agree with or believe in or that inspire us are actually taking us where we think they're taking us. And if not, to make adjustments and to have the courage to really put these teachings into practice. Now, of course, Saturn is already retrograde, and he has been for a couple months. And Saturn retrograde is where we're reflecting on our commitments, the things that are, that we're willing to work hard for and sacrifice for. So again, when Saturn and Jupiter are both retrograde, which they are a lot of the times at the same time, then it brings together our, the power of our commitments and the time-tested values that we're willing to work hard for, and this, again, reflection and recalibration about what's inspiring us. So again, you may feel some interruptions or some disruptions around what you already believe or what you already think. But it doesn't mean that those things can't move forward. It means that they can in fact move, be internal and be more introspective, and forces of introspection, which ultimately are why you change course in life. Because we're all born with some idea that something's inspiring us. It's not until we reflect on our own value system and morals and whatnot that we make adjustments. The fact that you're listening to astrology or whatnot, that's probably not the first thing you were taught in life. That's been a result of you thinking it through yourself. So, big shift in early September with Jupiter turning retrograde. Venus had been retrograde from Leo then into Cancer. She, actually, if you want to speak about the gender of the planets, turns direct in Cancer. Now it's a time to start moving forward on some of these relationship and these agreements that we've been reflecting on and maybe confused about since early in the summer. Venus turned retrograde in early July, mid-July, I think it was, like 14th or something. And since then, we've been reflecting on our agreements, our relationship agreements, and seeing how much we're either, compromising too much, or we're hard to, trust. Like, it's hard for us to trust, so we don't get involved in a relationship. Or when we do, we're kind of shallow in it, and we're not showing up fully. We have a hard time making agreements where we feel good about it and others feel good about it. So we've been reflecting on this whole thing. Now Venus starts moving forward in early September. September 2nd, you see this, September 2nd, she's retrograde. September 3rd, she's moving forward. So September 3rd is a time for us to start moving forward again. Again, notice how since early, or like mid-July, if you've gone through any relationship recalibration since mid-July, you've been reflecting on, this is how I am in my agreements with people and in my relationships. And I think I could do better in this way. So you've been more sensitive and more connected to the heart and wanting connection. So now Venus will start moving forward. So it's a time to start moving forward with some of those breakthroughs. Doesn't mean you have to connect with another person or whatever. It can just be in your life. And it can also even just be about beauty as a transcendent force, not as something that you get from another person or whatever. In fact, that could be the biggest lesson. And once you're clear with that lesson in your own heart, then you're going to be less needy and less grabby and less possessive with others, with the people in your life, where you've been trying to get some Venus from them. That's what sends the relationship dynamic out of balance. So Venus will start moving forward in early September, and it'll be in Cancer for the entire month of September, moving forward around newfound relationship breakthroughs, right? And so the Sun keeps moving through Leo. Mars is in Virgo. So again, this is sort of where we're going. But again, as you can see, early in September, big shifts. Venus turning direct where it's been retrograde, and Jupiter going retrograde where it's been direct is a big shift by the first week in September. By September 4th, these two big things have happened. So then we're going along. Mercury is still retrograde. Now it's going to be exactly joined the Sun here, September 5th and 6th. Again, so this is really when you have Mercury at its most retrograde here, the 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever. So that's really a time to get some penetrating insights and revelations. And again, Mercury retrograde is a time where we may be revisiting some issues with people that, it's not always relationship like romantic, but friendship, things to recommunicate, going back and maybe trying to recommunicate about certain things, trying to work through some things with people. It might be hard with Leo, with Mercury retrograde in Leo, because Leo is fiery. It's, we're not necessarily so calm and peaceful when Mercury's in Leo, we're easy to get insulted and, feeling familiar triggers and being fired up. But aside from anything that happens externally, internally, within yourself, it's a time to, again, rethink the story, the inspiring story of your life. Because underneath it all, regardless of how we relate these things with people in the world, there are energies within our own consciousness. So Mercury is really that story that you're telling yourself about everything. So the story you're telling yourself about what's going on in your life or your work and with other people and just the stories going around. Now with Mercury retrograde, it's a time to reflect on those stories and really get them right. Notice what's coming back. And it's the sign of Leo, so it's a lot of stories around, like, maybe not business, but like how much you're expressing your power and your vision and how much you're really putting forth your, power and vision into the world and the story around that. So again, you have an idea, like for example, let's say it relates to things. I talk all the time, of course, because I'm an astrologer and people talk to me about their problems and they want me to talk about their career and their dharma and how they want to be making a difference in the world and blah, blah. So this is very Leo themes. But then many times they'll also have these sort of built-in conundrums. Well, I want to be doing this and I want to be, an astrologer or this or that. But, I just hate marketing and I hate public speaking and I'm just so shy and I'm just this and I'm this, dot, dot, dot. Story. I want this thing, but I'm so blah, blah, blah. And like, okay, but this is just a story. And you want that thing relative to how much you're willing to, write a new story. Like, write a new script. You're running these scripts in your head. Like all of us, we all want the thing and we want it to be easy. And nobody likes thinking that they're, quote, marketing or sales or they're doing something, stepping up and drawing a lot of attention to themselves. No one likes that, but we do it, it's worth it to do it if we're going to get the thing that we really want. So again, relative to how important that vision is, relative to how important that big purpose is, you'll get outside of your comfort zone and flip that script. So again, the Mercury part of it is the story around the whole thing. The story around the whole thing. So people have all these stories about why they're not getting ahead as far as they'd like to, and all these stories about how, well, I'm just blah, blah. Or, again, then stories that are even more ancient, like my childhood, or I just don't have confidence because my father was this way and this is that way, and we're just running these stories. So the retrograde in Leo is very much about, again, sort of burn the script. And if you really want to step into your power, you're stepping into as much power as you think you're able to handle. That's the truth of the matter. And the story about it is just what you're saying to rationalize it. And this is usually what Mercury is. Mercury is said to be intelligence, but most of the time we're not using Mercury as intelligence. We're using it as these stories that justify keeping us right where we are, based on our emotions. We're mostly emotional, and Mercury is just running a story to validate why we stay stuck with the same old story, which is really just kind of, well, I feel blah, blah, blah. We get stuck at our emotional level, and then Mercury is just a lot of stories that rationalize it. So with the retrograde, particularly in Leo, a lot of these stories are revolving and getting the story straight around why you're really not making this difference that you think you should be making or you think you're capable of making, and what's really behind all that. So again, this story, when it's retrograde, Mercury is working through this right now as well, and he'll continue. See, he goes direct. It's like the middle of the month, so till the 15th, right? And so you'll see this shift around the middle of the month. This is also when the sun is now going to move into Virgo. So there's a shift, like this is on the 17th. The sun goes into Virgo. So we'll start to see a shift around the middle of the month where the sun goes into Virgo. It's getting close to Mars, where Mars is now going to be combust. There's going to be some combustion on Mars. By the end of the month, then Mars will be combust for a while, 17 degrees, Yeah, so by the end of the month, this is now 16, Mars winds up being combust at 17 degrees. So we're entering this, by the end of the month, Mars starts to be combust, where he'll be combust for several months. But aside from the combustion, after September 17th, you'll see that the Sun moves into Virgo, which moves this shifting away from the Leo energy that we've been talking about and all the fiery Leo, power energy into more Virgo, which is more rational, which is taking that power of the king and of the kingdom and organizing it and making it into, chunks and blocks that can be understood and, organized correctly, like a good government or kingdom runs efficiently because you have a good bureaucracy in place, not a bureaucracy that steals from the kingdom, but that supports it, for example. So in your life, or if you have a business or whatever, you can set up a structure that allows for that power that you have to flourish and to impact people, right? Like I do this with my work. I have a website and I have it organized a certain way so the power, the stuff that I put out, can get captured in this system that allows people to access it and whatnot, rather than just pushing it out there inefficiently. So the middle of September, this is a great time to really be noticing and focusing on those kinds of things, of organizing the power of your kingdom. So the first part of September, you're really getting more clear about the story around the power you have and the kingdom that you're inhabiting. And by the way, that also, as you see, Jupiter is still retrograde this whole time. This also includes like the power of maybe like the country you live in and the king or the leaders that you have been looking up to and rethinking that. That's another story that's going on, for example, with the Mercury retrograde and the Jupiter retrograde and Saturn also aspecting it. But as it relates more personally to your life, the transition of the Sun from Leo into Virgo shows where a big part of recalibrating that story of what's possible for you based on your country and your your comfort zone and all those things I mentioned starts to become much more of a rational thing. And like, okay, well, if I actually want to do something, I should set up again, I'll use the example of like a business, like a website and a this and a that and a sensible structure to where my things that I want to offer are able to be, properly monetized and put into a structure. Aside from that, it's also just about your daily habits and routines. And again, Leo is also like the vitality in your body, at least the potential vitality. And Virgo is where that energy goes, right? You can have a lot of natural vitality, but then if you eat a lot of crappy food and you don't move that energy correctly, that prana and that life force, then it can just mess up the body. But if you organize and you put all these habits and routines in place, proper diet, sleep, all these details, which are Virgo, then the power of the body and the mind becomes focused and harnessed and channeled into great vitality and awareness and wisdom. So that's the big shift from Leo to Virgo that happens in the middle of September as well. Now again, you see Mars is there. Mars is there for the whole month. By the time we get to the end of the month, this is the 30th, this is only 15 degrees, so this is combust, and then Sun and Mars are going to be combust for quite a while. Talk about that more later, but you see this Mars is in Virgo for the whole month. Now when Mars is in Virgo, it can definitely bring power and courage and vitality into all of those habits and routines and things like that. But Virgo also bogs down that Mars energy a little bit, whereas Mars is very disciplined and wanting to destroy the things that are making us weak and things like that. With Virgo, it can be too nitpicky and it can be kind of fussy, and you need to be careful of argumentation, like arguing and nitpicking and, sort of perfectionism. rather than being and strong opinions about the way things should or shouldn't be, especially getting stuck in your head around all these things, rather than being more practical, because Virgo is a practical sign. And once Mercury turns direct as well, that should improve. But you see, Mercury will still be in Leo by the end of the month. He doesn't go into, well, he goes into Virgo very first day of October, so he's pretty much in Leo for all of September as well. So these are a few of the important shifts that are happening. And of course, we have new moons and full moons also in the midst of all of that. We'll have a new moon in Leo on the 14th of September. And then we'll have a full moon, around the end of the month. It would be like the 29th or something, 15 days later. We'll have this full moon here. That would be on the 28th. So we'll talk about that as well in the future. But I hope this was helpful for you. September 2023. Share it with others. Join the channel, and thanks a lot. So go to rahuketu.net to attend the Rahu and Pisces, Ketu and Virgo free web class. We're going to have this shift of Rahu going through Pisces and Ketu through Virgo. It'll be from November 29th, 2023 until the end of May of 2025. And I'm going to talk about what it means for your sign, the house axis from your chart, for the world based on past transits. So are you ready for that? What's going to happen? And again, as you can see here, I analyzed the nodes, what they are, Rahu and Pisces, Ketu and Virgo. You see we have big eclipses coming up with this nodal axis, October 14th, 2023, and then also April 8th next year, and even further into 2025. So again, this is a great opportunity for you to really learn what this transit means. So go ahead and register rahuketu.net.